All right, folks, we are back with some Blaster Master Zero with Tempest Mask 1000. So we did have an incentive that was going for this run, which was the category bid war. So it was the X character Gunvolt any percent that won that. So that is what is going to be run. I'm going to pass it over to you folks. You can do your introductions and give us that 3, 2, 1 countdown whenever you're ready. Best of luck on the run.
All right, thank you very much, Sham, and hello, friends and fellow gamers. My name is TempestMask1000, and some of you might know me as Steve, but overall, it's wonderful to be back once again for Game Over Cancer. I always love being able to do what I can for this event, and this time I'm going to, instead of showing off Mega Man, showcase a game that Strizer actually recently played for the first time, and I figured, hey, I already wanted to submit this game to the event, so I'm kind of glad it got accepted. But yeah, as we mentioned, I'm going to be doing one of the DLC characters in Gunvolt, the Azure Striker. Funnily enough, last GOC I actually played the first game, so yeah, let's see how this all plays out. But joining me on commentary, we've got a couple of wonderful community members of Blaster Master Zero runners themselves. We got the Shining Dragoon.
Oh, I'm shining.
And the wonderful Scavenger 216.
Hello.
Thank you both for joining me today. Are you ready to have a good old mutant blasting time?
Yep, I'm
Let's
good to
do
go.
it.
All right. Then time will begin once I gain control of the tank. So I'm going to initiate the cutscene, and then I will count us down accordingly. So if we're all ready to go, then let us begin. I'll use slot 19 for this run, confirm single player, and off we go. Time will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so this is Blaster Master Zero, a joint effort of a game that is essentially a retro revival of the NES cult classic and was handled by both Inti Creates and Sunsoft themselves. So Inti Creates you might recognize for making the Gunvolt series, which funnily enough is, easily why they would put their own character as one of the DLC folks. And overall, it's just a fantastic game. For today's run, I will be playing on the Xbox version through my Xbox One S. I'll explain a very slight difference that has within the gameplay once I get to that certain point, but other than that, it's a very faithful recreation of the classic gameplay that the original title was known for. And this Area 1 right here is absolutely no different from that original as well. Maybe a few changes per se, but overall, in any percent, especially with the DLC characters, my main focus is just going to be on the progressional upgrades, or at least some of them anyway in Gunvolt's case. But for those that are unfamiliar with GV's gameplay, how he normally goes is he's a lot like a Mega Man Zero character himself, in which he can wall jump, he has electrical powers, and he can channel them into enemies when they're tagged by his gun, the Cerberus. Another nice little thing he has within his games that applies here is Prevasion, which is what you'll see me use at the expense of my EP gauge in the upper left corner to essentially bypass damage from enemies at any given point. I will start taking damage, though, if I use my move called the Flash Field and make contact with anything that would otherwise hurt me, or if I do not have a subsequent amount of EP to engage in the Flash Field. Other than that, though, I'm going to pass it over to one of my commentators as we go over to the first major boss of the game.
So this is the first boss, Mother Brain, basically. That's what, with the little guide in the first Blaster Master called it. It's definitely changed a little bit since the first one. It does still have the little Mother Brains that could run around it, but you couldn't actually destroy it there, and it's a little bit quicker to kill. But grenades are usually useful against it, but obviously Gunvolt does not have that.
Now, in terms of the DLC characters, Gunvolt and Nikoro are definitely the two weakest in terms of boss killing speed.
But that also kind of plays into a very funny counter effect for GV himself in that his defense is also the lowest among all the characters in total. So whenever he takes damage both inside, not inside. Whenever he takes damage and it doesn't involve the tank, he's going to get at least a bit more chipped off of him than normal. And also that bee was very rude, knocking me into the water. Unfortunately, the tank, much like within the original game, at least starting off anyway, is very much not a good swimmer. And funnily enough, we're not even going to get the swimming gear that allows me to move faster in the water. One of the big things about Gunvolt that makes his any percent one of the fastest any percent categories of the game, not including unlimited mode, of course, is that some of his skills using the flash field and his Cerberus gun allows him to bypass the obstacle that I would need the next main upgrade here in Area 2 for normally. So I can just zap away these blocks as well as use the flash field for similar purposes, and we don't even have to face Crabulus. So, quite frankly, he's not going to spawn, period. And if you know, you know.
He's not as bad in this game, but overall, yeah, he's still annoying. Especially since if you don't have your max gun, it's painful.
The thing about Gunvolt's gameplay is that overall, I'm going to want to combine using the pin shots from the gun itself as well as using my flash field. And the reason for that is because not only does it maximize the damage, but it also makes up for the fact that unlike in Azure Striker Gunvolt, there is no way I can multi-target enemies, so I can't do up to 3 levels of damage with my flash field, unlike Gunvolt games proper, which is a bit weird. Honestly, it does feel like in some of these gameplay aspects, Inti did make a few unusual cuts as to what Gunvolt normally has going for him. But other than that, he's still a really helpful, I'd say he's a rather tricky character to master, but again, his any percent campaign, barring that of unlimited mode, is easily the fastest among the 5 playable characters. Which, by the way, we should probably explain who they are. So, alongside GV and Jason Frudnick, the main playable character in the normal story, we also got Shovel Knight from Yacht Club Games, Shantae from Way Forward, and one last Inti Creates character in Ikoro from the Galgun series.
Yeah, Gunvolt's easily the fastest of all of them. Ikoro and Shantae are both pretty close as well. Shovel Knight's a little bit slower than them, and Jason's the slowest.
Which is also kind of funny because his approach to one of the bosses coming a little bit later is also the fastest, arguably.
Which boss is that?
That, yes.
Yeah, the freeze.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, overall, we're in Area 3 right now, and I'm doing a little bit of a trick where I'm purposely avoiding any checkpoints. And while this does come at the risk of having to do some major return backtracking or whatnot if I die, there's a very good reason for this. But first, I'm going to initiate this press. I'm going to get out of the tank. I'm going to use Gunvolt's wall jumping, and then... Oh, hang on. That should be fine. Yep, there you go. Ah, dang it. Okay. I was trying to get up to that platform because while you can shoot the presses up, Gunvolt's own flash field also can do so as well, and it's pretty helpful that way, but it's only as good as what the jump arc will take you for, so yeah. Okay, I was a little low on health, but luckily there is a health drop right there, and even then, I am going to pick up an optional upgrade that I don't really need to get here in any percent, but rather I will for the sake of safety purposes. This is a life up, and it not only increases Sophia 3's life by 1, but also the pilot's as well, and it also insta-full heals you, which definitely is something I would want to do just for the sake of this upcoming boss, because there's no need to fear, for you see, Central Gear is here.
Yeah, this is one of the more RNG heavy fights in the game. Can be one-cycled if you get a good pattern from it.
I'm not 100%
perfect.
sure if Without the upgrade from Area 3, you can really do it nicely, though, sadly.
Yeah, it's definitely harder if you skip the hyper upgrade from Area 2.
And sometimes, even if you get good patterns, once you're out of the first one or two, the patterns can despawn in very annoying ways. This is probably one of the least fun. The one it sends out the little gears. There's not much you can do with damaging the boss except for tickling it with the missiles.
Nice,
But
that
still
wasn't too bad.
very clean.
All right, cool. So now that I've successfully done that, one thing I'm going to immediately do is go into the select button menu, save the game, and instead of doing the built-in soft reset combo, I'm actually going to exit the game. The reason for this is because in most other versions of BMZ, particularly the Switch and PC versions, by using the soft reset, it sends you straight back to the title menu. But in the case of the Xbox version and purportedly the PS4 version as well, or so I've heard in regards to the Metafight Chronicle Trilogy release, unfortunately, the splash screens and the intro cutscene will play out once again, so it is technically slower on Xbox if I have to do the soft reset, which I do not want. So I'm just going to exit the menu. It's a very weird quirk, but it also does have me wonder how else the Xbox port might be different, because I have a theory that this is a potentially older version of the game, and so effectively when bringing it on over to Microsoft's platform, Inti Creates ended up potentially using a later version, but one that didn't necessarily have the final updates that said Switch and PC version have. It's just a theory, though. I'm not entirely sure, but one game I'd love to test that out on would be Blaster Master Zero 2, which, by the way, there are a total of 3 games. Technically, this is a official sequel to the original game's Japanese version, Cho Wakase Senki Metafight. But one of the amazing things about this game is that it combines a lot of lore from it, the US version, and even stuff like the Worlds of Power novel and all that jazz, and it's absolutely wonderful. Personally, one of my favorite pieces of retro revival media in gaming history, like, ever.
Yeah, they did a very good job actually doing like a reboot of it compared to some other series.
So in the meantime, I am undergoing some backtracking as we are nearing the gate to Area 4. And similar to what I did here in Area 3, I am going to hit a certain checkpoint and then proceed through the entire area without hitting another one. The reason for this is that there is a locked gate in which I need a key for, and the boss is all the way at the bottom of the entire maze-like labyrinth. And so trying to get all the way back up there is obviously going to be very, very slow. But again, I do run the same risk of having to go all the way back if I potentially die. So I'm going to have to play this very carefully. It's not necessarily all that hard to survive this area, per se, but some areas some enemies, like the bees, are especially a case of insect enemies are jerks. That's that whole trope. They can potentially snipe you with their little stinger projectiles, and if it hits you, you can basically, you can potentially get caught off guard in a way that interrupts your mobility and all that stuff. And that's also the challenging thing about this game in general. To give a fair sort of challenge, despite you playing as this superpowered tank, you only get at least a second or even half a second of invulnerability frames. So you got to be very careful of that.
Yeah, you can definitely get juggled pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad as it was in the original NES game, but you can definitely still get somewhat soft-locked by enemies.
Oops.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that was a bit of a wrong way. Let's just go all the way back up here. That was it.
Almost all of these zones are basically... Like, the first zone is basically a copy of the original, but all the other ones kind of take more of the just a nod from it. Like
I'm going to be a little
all
bit
the areas
careful
are
over here.
similar.
If I do end up taking just a bit more damage, I'm going to try and rough it out as GV himself, because one of the nice things about this game is that if you're in your tank long enough, you will come, and then you eject, you will be fully healed, so...
And a nice quirk of the DLC characters is you can spawn your tank wherever you are at any given time through the menu.
Well, give or take
Doesn't
a
work
few...
with Jason.
Yeah, well, give or take a few certain scenarios, but yes, otherwise, like for instance, oop, that was completely the wrong way. That one always gets me every now and then.
If you're doing 100%, you would be going into that room right there because it gives you a nice little dash ability for your tank.
Yeah, the Spark Tackle is easily one of the nicest things about running 100%.
Even makes the area 3 faster by charging up. You can use the dash to charge up the little conveyor belts faster.
This is also true, yeah. So, because I have to break certain blocks with GV's powers instead of the tanks, it can be a little funny to suddenly remember that. And by funny, I mean slightly embarrassing. But other than that, that's really the only trade-off of not having your gun fully powered. Now, this is going to be interesting. I'm pretty low on this one, but coming up is what Scav likes to call the Frog the Fred. Ribberroll here is a boss that is a take on the original game's giant frog boss. Let's see how this one goes. Whoop. Oh, jeez. Oh, come on, really?
Oh, well.
Dang. Unfortunate. By the way, shout out to my buddy Bruiser, who's currently watching me on the couch right next to me. But yeah, aside from that, that was almost a pretty good fight. Unfortunately, that's going to lose me just a bit of time, but I'm pretty sure I can recover from that, because admittedly, when I submitted this run, the estimate was at least to just be as safe as possible. So, having both categories with around the hour mark was just to assure that if the ultimate calamities were to happen, I'd still be able to complete the game. But yeah, no, I made sure to practice just to make sure that that wouldn't necessarily happen without me giving a fight. But yeah, just got to do a little bit of retreading some familiar steps. So I say if we got any announcements or potential donations to read, that would be a great time. Although, I kind of forgot if we do that during runs in this event. I always forget that. So if, yeah, my bad.
At least this has a healing here, so that's always nice.
Right. Okay, this should be the right way back. Yep, there we go.
Nope.
Dang it.
It's always left.
It's always left. Gosh darn it. Oh well.
Zigged when you should have zagged.
Exactly. Tragic.
The only slightly slow thing is that you have to shoot that thing. Otherwise, it's barely a time loss, really. But it's just because of that water.
Okay, that's a little concerning. I'm gonna GV it here.
Yeah, just remember this time to give the tank the health instead of Gunvolt.
Oh, that's what happens? Gosh darn it. I wasn't even paying attention to that part. I was just trying to move on ahead. Whoops. Alright. There we go. Okay. Just gotta... Whoop. I took a shot there. Okay, no dice on the spawn. Alright. We'll see how this goes. If it's absurdly low, I'll just Gunvolt it.
Yeah. If we were doing a normal run in the initial just salvo, we would basically be done like right here if we had the upgraded damage, because even the missiles do less damage.
Okay,
See, like it's that easy.
very easy. Very, very easy. By the way, some of you might have not realized that, yes, this game does indeed have bosses that you can fight in the tank. The original did not. So it's a quality of life addition that I personally appreciate.
I forget. Was the first time they did that in the PlayStation one, or was it like in the Genesis?
I get the feeling it must have been Genesis.
Genesis.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm supposed to actually climb up the ladder. So,
Actually, no, I don't remember any tank bosses in the Genesis game.
They just had the weird top-down areas.
The weird top-down areas, and then the bosses were fought in side view out of the tank.
Yeah, so I guess the first one was the the bargain bin from the beginning Blaster Master game.
Yeah. In case you're all unaware, there was a Blaster Master 2 for Sega Genesis. It was a North American exclusive, and for a good reason.
Yeah, it was made by people who barely knew what Blaster Master should be. It's like they gave them a list of things. It's like, okay, Blaster Master has a tank, you go into dungeons, and good luck. And that's what we got.
You know, I'd actually love to see Matt McMuscles do a What Happened episode on that game. That would actually be pretty fun.
Matt McMuscles.
Yeah, one of the former Super Best Friends Play members. He's a funny guy. Alright, so now I'm going to do a bit of a jump here, and by using the flash field, Gunvolt can hover. So it's a trait that also carries over from his original game, which is always nice for those tougher platforming sections. Why am I still low on health? Okay. I keep forgetting these things can happen. I'm going to hit another retry just to make sure that no major shenanigans happen with the tank health. But that said, in Gunvolt's any percent, I will be taking care of this area mostly as him. So part of this is because, once again, there are going to be blocks that require the area to upgrade in order for the tank to destroy it. So this is mostly going to come down to his flash field or the Cerberus gun. But more importantly, his own wall jump allows us to bypass what is probably the worst platforming section Area 6 here has to offer, which is good because then that also allows me to cut straight to the main boss here. On the downside, this is that particular boss that gives a lot of people trouble, and I don't just mean speedrunners, casual players as well, potentially.
So it was when they made these blocks, they really, really wanted you to get that Area 2 upgrade. Like, for the rest of the game, like, almost all the breakable blocks require the upgrade. So we'll just basically have Gunvolt just running around for a while.
I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful here. This would probably be a good time to explain GV's... Oh no, God. Oh no. That does not usually happen. And once again, my point still stands. Bugs are jerks in video games. Alright, so in that case, I'm just going to summon the tank right here. I'm going to jump in it, even if it's just for a short little while. I'm going to bring me over to here. And just like that, I'm fully healed again.
Yeah, there are a couple things that can fully heal you. Getting into the tank heals him. Gunvolt immediately. Sadly, it doesn't work the opposite way around. But and then anytime you enter an area, like a new little dungeon area, that kind of thing, it like does a little save that you can retry and just heal yourself immediately if you needed to. Obviously, it works with save points as well, but
that's the thing about this game, actually. Any progress that you've made once you die actually does get lost, so hitting checkpoints or saving the game can be a little key. funnily enough, too, this game's dialogue system is only skippable in Jason's story if you've actually gone through the dialogue at least once. So it is recommended to actually beat the game if you intend to run Jason. But now we come up to the biggest gatekeeper of the game. Ancient Freeze, or as I like to call him, Ancient Jeez. I'm going to go right here. It's going to freeze the floor, but I'm going to immediately use my Lux Caliber. So Lux Caliber is a stronger special skill of Gunvolt, but unlike the Dragon Sphere, which I used against Mother Brain, this one costs me 2 special points. He also has one other special skill called Galvanic Patch. All of these abilities are ones that you have seen either in Gunvolt 1 or in the case of the Dragon Sphere, Gunvolt 2. GV is actually modeled after his Gunvolt 2 appearance, as it were. But overall, Dragon Sphere in this game does cost a special. Original, it did not. It actually cost 0. And the only thing that prevented you from using it consecutively was you had to wait for it to cool down after the fact. But yeah, this boss is especially annoying because, as you can tell, its entire health comprises of all these different eye sentries, which I have to kill in order to clear the boss. The red ones require a little more damage than the blue ones, and overall, there's just no easy way to effectively take them out all at once unless you were Jason, because of the Striker gun, which, ironically enough, is a gun that was modeled after GV's own powers, so not sure what exactly happened there, NT.
Overall, the problem is Gunvolt's regular attacks are kind of weak. So, and these guys only take damage when the little eyes are open. So, combine those two things together, and you got this.
Yeah, not the most fun around, and I think a lot of people can certainly agree that this boss is definitely not their favorite. Come on. Dang it, I'm not going to get the special attack in time, and that was a little unfortunate too. So, as you can see, I'm trying to do a little bit of enemy control with those spinning drones. The reason for that is because if they do try to come at me, I can take easily unnecessary damage, and I mean quite a bit of it. They don't hit too hard, but any health that I can potentially preserve is appreciated. In fact, I'm going to just use a Galvanic Patch right there to assure that I won't die, because at this point, a death this far into the fight is going to be devastating. And I can accidentally do it too. It can accidentally happen if you run into these things and you do not have Pervasion to save your hide, so yeah.
And you can probably tell a little bit, but there is ice physics going along as well, so if you're trying to run up and do your little energy sphere attack, you can accidentally run into the enemy and just start taking damage.
Alright, looks like I'm almost done here. Just one more to go. Nice. And we've officially sent this boss to the Ice Age.
Ah.
Alright, so with that, the final major progressional upgrade has now been collected. We got the Wall Drive. It's a bit of a classic ability from the first game, but the big thing about it is that in here, it's a lot more easy to use. In the original game, you had to just run up to a wall. Like, you had to actually drive up the wall with the control pad. In this game, you just use the trigger buttons and you run. You still move into the wall, yes, but the fact that you don't have to worry about unintentionally doing so is what definitely makes this version a lot more preferred.
Yeah, because of the way it's tied to directional pad inputs in the original game, when you try to jump at the edge of a platform, the wall 2 kind of takes priority over your jump input. So instead of jumping off the edge of the platform, you just roll down the face of it. And this, having the separate button to trigger it, makes it a lot less of a headache, a lot more controllable.
Yeah, it just makes you tip right into the spikes, and then you die because you can't jump out of it because you start to panic.
Looking pretty good so far, though.
I think in
very this is definitely looking on very, very good pace, and I'm almost positive that we will not be hitting that hour mark anytime soon. Not to jinx myself, which I totally have a habit of doing so every once in a while, but nah, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. There could have been a lot of worse things that could have happened within some of the earlier stuff. The River death was very unexpected, yes, but I'll honestly take that over at some of the other things. Granted, I haven't quite entered the worst area yet, so we'll have to just save any potential complaints for that.
So now we got more backtracking.
Yeah, it's nice enough that Gunvolt's own weaponry can take care of the stone blocks that allow the boss here, Hardshell, or as Scav likes to call Zoidberg, yeah, we just don't have to take care of him. And honestly, I wouldn't say it's the worst boss around, but it's the journey to get there that takes the longest time, because in order to get to the chamber, you have to bring Sophia slowly down to some of the deepest parts of this ocean, and then you have to get out and start swimming as Jason. And eventually, you'll make your way to the proper dungeon area where the boss fight will take place. It's not as horrible as it could be, but it's just slow overall.
If we were in Jason, we would have had to basically, maybe not have to, but no, yeah, we would have had to open the other lock door, so you could have just kind of rolled on through. But the way Gunvolt does it, you have to swim for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Now, if anybody is curious on trying out this game or its sequels, which I do eventually plan on going to Blaster Master Zero 2, I woefully am overdue to eventually buy myself that game. You can get this on Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4, Xbox One. It's also compatible with the Xbox Series XS. The PlayStation version should be playable on the PS5, and last but certainly not least, the PC version through Steam. This game was also available for the 3DS, but unfortunately there was no physical cartridge version, so technically the only way to have gotten this game was digitally, and of course with the closure of that eShop, that's no longer possible to do legally, so rest in peace. But yeah, overall, it's a really fun game. It's not that expensive, at least this entry for sure. And Inti is no stranger to putting it on sale from time to time. And if you would like to get the DLC characters, they're just $2 each. Not including tax, of course, but yeah, no, definitely consider getting this game. I quite love this game a lot.
Yeah, when they first came out with the game, when the DLC happened, if you downloaded it with in the first month or something to that effect,
I think it was the first week.
Yeah, I thought it might have been the week. If you got on the first week, you could get the DLC for free, but past that, you would have to pay for it. But of course, like you said, it's like $2.
They did do something similar, though, with Copen's DLC in Blaster Master Zero 2, which, by the way, if you enjoy the DLC character gameplay here, you'll especially love the 2 DLC characters that BMZ2 had going for it. Yeah, surprisingly, there was not a whole lot more DLC within the sequel game, but I would say it was fairly decently traded off with some extra little bits of gameplay that those characters have, both Copen and Empress, who are both Inti Creates characters in that case, Copen being another Gunvolt character, and Empress from Dragon Marked for Death, a game which I've never really had the chance to play, and I know some people the jury's probably on whether or not it's a good game, but I've heard enough decent things, and I know One of our fellow runners, Ben Ha, enjoys it, and I think wishes there was a sequel. Hi, Ben. But yeah, overall, we're just doing some more backtracking here in Area 3. It'll be the last time we need to do so. And at this point, because I have the wall drive, I will be able to run up to this conveyor belt section to bring us to Area 7. And Scab, what's the deal with Area 7?
Well, difference from the NES version, this one has kind of like a stealth mechanic shoehorned in, where there's enemies with fields of vision and searchlights, and if you get spotted by them, you get swarmed by all kinds of other enemies, and gates drop down. So the idea is to take them out as quickly as possible and hit all of the enemies that spawn as they're spawning, so you can instantly re-raise the gate. But it's quite tricky to do so consistently on every one of them.
And of course, it doesn't help that you have, since we don't have the upgraded damage, we can't kill the little buggy bugs in one shot.
Honestly, I forgot about that part of it.
And in the normal any percent, you would just kind of do a sync. Well, if you do it correctly, you can do one single missile shot and like take out the entire group of bugs at the same time.
Which is what I
This
would
one-
be doing. But
Right.
yeah,
Honestly, this it's almost it's possibly faster to not even worry about it. But then again, the Gunvolt is good. Even though he doesn't do a lot of damage, he's still good at killing the little guys pretty quick.
So at this point, there are
Uh,
only 2 areas left within the game. This one and Area 8. And at this rate, I'd say we are, well, going to be decently underestimate. But as I said, I do have a tendency to jinx myself. And the big jinxer in this case wouldn't necessarily be 7, but rather Area 8. That's where the real rubber hits the road, my friends. And you'll see why eventually. But for now, yeah, I'm just going to make use of some of these ladders and whatnot. That's the funny thing. For those that are familiar with the... Oh, maybe I should get... No, I won't get that. I don't need that. I was considering using Prevasion to phase through those otherwise damaging spikes and potentially just, you know, just try to heal up the tank, but I think I'll be okay. Oh, that was close. Alright, now I'll respawn the tank here. Technically, that was not the faster way, because the tank does move faster than the pilot, but I just figured why not.
Honestly, with the changes, it might be about the same in the long run.
Alright, so now I'm going to place the tank on this elevator, and we are going to enter the top-down dungeon of this game, which is mandatory to reach the area's boss. And this is a bit of a doozy. So we've got some security guard enemies right here, which they're the blue variant ones, but we're just jumping straight to the pink ones. And, well, the problem with these baddies, they have a search cone vision, and if they start to detect you, all of them will go aggro. And it is not fun if you do not know what to do. So I'm just going to mostly evade them. Oh, that was not quite what I wanted to do. Alright, hang on. I'm going to go right here. That will reset their security cycle. And by the way, some of you might have noticed me pick up a little extra something before entering Area 7. So that was Voltaic Chains. The little sprite character was Jewel, who is the Muse and is from the Gunvolt games. And basically there's a character from each of those games, I forgot I can't summon the tank here, that once you touch them, they give you a extra power exclusive to that character. So, for instance, a genie dance in Shantae's case that turns you into Mother Brain, literally, comes from Squid Baron. So, just to give an example there. But other than that, here's the skeleton boss. This fella is a popular enemy within the fans. His entire existence is a reference to the major enemy within the cover art of the original game. And basically everyone loved it so much that it comes back in both sequels.
Yeah, in the original game, there were some palette swapped bosses. You've seen the same boss in areas 2 and 6, and also the same bosses in areas 4 and 7. This game, they got rid of all the palette swap bosses, and in the case of Area 7, they brought the skeleton boss from Area 8 over and made him into a side view tank boss. And then in Area 8, you just fight multiple phases of the Underworld Lord. There is a 9th area if you're playing 100%, but you have to get every upgrade, every map, and kill every boss to move on to Area 9, which is admittedly kind of a cool area. It really forces you to use each and every tank upgrade in some pretty creative ways.
And the best part about Area 9 with Gunvolt is that by having voltaic chains, you can instantly kill Ancient Freeze. Oh yeah, the Area 9 is cool and all, but they also kind of threw in a boss refight because, of course, Inti Creates did exactly that.
It's not a Mega Man, Gunvolt game without having a boss rush.
Yeah, but in Blaster Master? But it's fine. I think people eventually got used to it. I just think the only more egregious example would have probably been 3's case, but that's just my take on it. And even then, I would say 3 is got some of the best the series has to offer in terms of overall spectacle and added gameplay elements total. That said, definitely consider playing 2 as well, though. The thing about 3 is that they purely based the whole development on Jason and Jason alone. So unfortunately, no DLC characters, and that'll probably remain that way for the foreseeable future.
So, that room is basically the same as one of the rooms from the original, which was when you had the wall 2 that you couldn't control, was the death of many, many people. Speedrunners and just regular people alike. Because it's like, oh, I'm going to jump over this pit. No, you're not. And then you go in.
You know, there's a funny thing, though, about walls, considering that Gunvolt can wall jump. I get the feeling like the upgrade to get voltaic chains could potentially be possible to cheese by using the wall jump. I haven't tested that theory for sure, though. Thing is, I imagine it would be a similar principle to Iceless in Mega Man X1. I'd have to test that out myself, though, but let me tell you, if it's possible, then that could easily save a lot more time for Gunvolt, period. So that would kind of be fantastic if it is doable. But I'm not going to get my hopes up there, because, I can imagine Inti Creates must have accounted for that at the very least. And that's by no means a bad thing. Inti Creates is a solid game developer, and I highly implore you all to support their stuff, truly. Their most recent game being Gal Guardian's Demon Purge. Oh, that was a little unfortunate.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was watching your stream.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, go ahead.
These blue enemies are quite annoying.
Oh, by the way, they are called cell rejection. Just so we're all clear on that one.
Yeah, they kind of just always fixate on your current position and fire things at you, and when you kill them, they split into multiple smaller ones, and if you're too close to them, those things can kind of drop right on top of you. They're just a pain. Ouch.
And then they do that.
I hesitated. That was on me. It's not the worst thing, though, because that was literally the last progressional room. And then it would have been just the mini-boss.
So it was the first thing. Yeah, the Jason, technically he's a little bit slower going through this area, but at the same time he can kill all of them all together, and you don't have to worry about them as much. Or you can also do that.
I didn't originally plan on using voltaic chains, but I just figured why the heck not. Yeah. I'm obviously going to have to retry, though, because I'm going to need those special points back. The funny thing about the EP game... Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't...
Hey, never mind, then. I just sabotaged myself.
Just like in with Jason, if you do a retry, it doesn't bring back his... wow, I guess...
His grenades.
Ammo. Because all of them use different ammo.
So this is not cell rejection, antibody cell, and this mini boss is actually important because it holds a progressional item, a key which is necessary, well that was close, to then enter the final dungeon of the game, at least for any percent, the Mutant Lord's Lair.
Yep, completely needed, sadly. In order to do the most amount of damage, you would kind of like do it at the very beginning. So if you're don't have the SP to do it, then it takes a little bit longer to kill the boss than usual.
Alright, with that key collected, we are now moving on to the final area of the game. Or, well, I'm already in the final area. The final dungeon of the game. And, yeah. If you would think, why would the Mutant Lord put a key right in front of the lock behind, like right in front of his lair door? Well, there it is. Apparently, he's just smart that way, I guess. But that's the interesting thing about mutants. Technically, they're the Invem from Choaksei Senki Metafight, which I guess they kind of sort of coalesce the two together, so to speak. Invem are simply the alien enemy force in the Japanese version that Kane Gardner, the protagonist, fights, but yeah. Alright, one more retry here, and now we got a bit of a maze. Kind of. Dragoon?
So yeah, for these, it's a maze, but not really. If you go the wrong way, all that happens is you like enter like a little enemy spawnings, and then you have to kill them. So if there is a correct way, and you don't have to fight a bunch of extra enemies, but overall, it's if you go the wrong way, then just you have to go try the other door.
If I remember right, some of the wrong paths take you through some boss refights.
I think so, yeah. Like at least
Actually, I think the boss refights are... Actually, I wouldn't know that for sure. I think I've tried each of the doors, and I did not see any boss refights. Could be, though.
Okay, so that's I just only read this last area.
But yeah, here's the Underworld Lord, originally known as Goez from the first game. And yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of a tango with him, using my Dragon Sphere. Well, that was not quite what I wanted to do. But he as you can see, he basically just tries to back away from you before hitting you with the Electro Whip. Oh, come on. That's scary, alright. I'm giving myself a bit of serious time.
Thankfully,
Whoa, never mind then.
Well, I was gonna say, thankfully, you can heal yourself with Gunvolt, but...
Oh, so I get my special points back for dying, but not by retrying.
Well,
Yikes.
because when you saved, you had... I don't know.
Oh,
That's
that's
actually a good
true.
point.
I guess that would make sense.
No, I think if you saved and then you came back, you probably would have full everything. Like if you did a reset. Maybe. It's probably... That might not be something that it completely tracks.
By the way, it is possible for Gunvolt to strafe. I literally, when starting this category out, did not know that, but it turns out if you hold the jump button in the top-down sections, yeah, it's possible. It's a little bit unorthodox, though, considering that Jason would normally do so by holding the right shoulder, at least with default, anyway.
And wait, there's more.
Oh yeah, one final boss. So time will be at the end of this fight, so once the health reaches 0, let's get ready on that. Let's see what color I get. That's not too bad, it's just a little annoying. Okay, that's a good
um,
one. But unfortunately, I cannot necessarily stun him that way, so... The thing about Jason's guns is that depending on which level you use, bosses actually do have a pseudo-weakness where it all depends on if you're using the right level. So it's a bit of experimentation that can reward you in that way. All right, I'm gonna Dragon Sphere. Okay. Should put him in kill range soon. I'm gonna take it very carefully here, though. Those little bubbles can drop health pickups or just pickups in general, which is especially nice. All right, here we go. Flashy finish time. And... time. And that was the reason why I got Voltaic Chains in the first place. I just wanted to do an epic kill on the multi-dimensional Overlord. And that's the game.
Yeah, if we're doing 100%, there'd be an entire another area, boss-free fights, a final boss that you fight in the tank. But for now,
yeah,
you are done.
Indeed. I would say Gunvolt's 100% is potentially the longest, at least with current timing anyway. I don't think anyone's really put in the time to route it out, but that's okay. In due time, I suppose. And this game also does have a co-op mode, by the way, which is kind of funny. The other games don't. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it on anything but the Switch for the co-op, because unfortunately that, by design, forces both players to use Joy-Cons. You can't use any other controller, so a little unfortunate there, but hey, it's not the worst thing in the world, I suppose. By the way, yeah, that was at least a 6-minute PB on my part. Well, 4 minute, but close to 5. 6 minute. I can't time correctly, but yeah. that was a really good run though. Seriously.
No, that was an awesome run and such a fun game to watch. So thank you so much for that.
Oh,
really
absolutely.
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. Before we sign off, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge my great aunt and grandmother, 2 victims of cancer. Both my grandmothers, and I know my family misses them terribly. But I know they're all watching down on me, and I'm sure they're proud of me doing what I can to help assure that others will have the chance to fight back, and hopefully one of these days we will eradicate this disease. So I hope we can reach this event's goal, and again, thank you to the GOC crew for having me. I know we were a little bit over a little bit past the schedule when things started, so since we do have a little bit of breathing room on our hands, I am going to pass it on back. And I know that my pal Zero Blade Edge is coming up with Gungrave Gore, which I think that's the first time that's getting shown at a marathon. And yeah, shout out to my pals in the Gungrave community. But yeah, overall, thanks again for having me, and thank you, Scav and Dragoon, for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And obviously we couldn't do these sort of events without everyone's support. So it means the world to us as well that everyone's being involved and everyone's participating and being as supportive as they are. So thank you so much as well.
Absolutely. Ciao, amici.
As Tempest said, we are going to be right back after a very brief intermission, so don't go anywhere.